ready to start here. We'll,
I'll get you in touch with you.
y'all ready in the back? Everybody? Okay. We'll go ahead and get started. This is a public hearing pertaining to our millage rate for this coming year. And we are lowering our millage rate one quarter of a mil. And Dawn, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you just like we did this morning. You can go over the full booklet here, and then we'll have questions.
Right. All right, so welcome to the second millage rate hearing, public hearing. We will have another public hearing next week, which will be the third millage rate thing. We're going to close that off.
Let's talk about why we even have to have one in the first place.
I'm going to let Carrie talk about it. Anyway, that third public hearing will be next Thursday, so be aware of that, and that's at 4 p.m. and then the special call meeting at 4:30 to consider adoption for the final millage rate and also a vote to authorize the tax collection of the school's millage rate. So that will be next week at 4:30. I think Commissioner Goff, just so you know, is out. He's a, what do you call it, sideline official person?
Well, they've got a football game now.
Yeah, the football game's tonight. So.
Commissioner Bradford will be here most of the meeting because her son is a senior playing this the first.
Oh, okay, good. All right.
But we don't, this is not a meeting, a voting meeting. We don't have a quorum. This is actually a public hearing, so, yeah.
Right, just
We're
public.
fine.
So, under the first tab there, we have the 5-year history. It's called the current 2004 Property Tax Digest and 5-year history of levy. I don't know if you can go to that or not, but anyway. It shows, and this is all online, by the way, for anyone that's interested. You can look back from 2019 all the way through 2024, what's been proposed. Well, actually, this is not a proposal. This is the actual figures that came from our Real Digest. So real and personal property, at the top you see there's an unincorporated area and incorporated area. Some counties only have one, which is just an unincorporated area. They may not have any cities. Other counties may have multiple incorporated rates. But in this case, we have the city of Trenton as our incorporated area. And that's, so the people that live in the city who pay county taxes. So just to kind of clarify that, what that means. Unincorporated area at the top, you see real and personal property. Last year we had 671,872,000, and this year it's 740,820,000. And the motor vehicles came in last year at 5.7 million. This year's 5.2, and that's pretty standard. Just so you know, we've been expecting those to continue to drop. And what that is used to everyone had paid ad valorem on their vehicles, but now with TAVT, that's been replaced with that tax, that new TAVT tax. So that will continue to drop, I guess, until Diane Bradford had his last truck. He would never get rid of his truck, but I don't know who that would be now. But anyway, I'm sure someone out there will never get rid of their favorite Chevy or whatever. Anyway, mobile homes last year was 6.2 million. This year is 6.3. So it did rise a little bit there. Timber harvesting was collected this year at 359,000, and last year was 134. So that fluctuate based on harvesters coming into the county. We typically don't have any heavy duty equipment isolated, so those are always zero. And then just quickly looking down at the incorporated, you see the same information, and I don't know if you can focus in on that a little bit more or not, but anyway, the real and personal property for the city, or the incorporated area, was 138,227,000. This year was 149,374,000. Motor vehicles, again, 893,000, dropping this year to 748,000. Mobile homes, I guess probably for the first time, I've never noticed it going above 100,000, but it did go above 100,000 this year. It's went from 91,624 to 109,202 for 24. And the timber, of course, is zero. There's very little timber harvested in the city. And then, of course, heavy-duty equipment. The gross digest for the incorporated area, so you see, went from 139,000 last year to 139,212,000 to 150,232,000. And then this year at the top again, you see the value for the gross digest for the unincorporated went from 683.9 million to 752.8 million. The numbers right below that are the exemptions. Those are exemptions. There's lots of different exemptions. Paula is here tonight. If you have a question about exemptions, we'll try to do our best. I've got a copy of our digest, but there's just several that you can apply for through it, primarily at the beginning of each year, all right, and towards the end of the year.
January 1st to April 1st.
That's right, January 1st to April 1st. And last year was 202 million. This year is 231 million. So we did see some increases in real and personal property, but we also saw a rise in the exemptions. I'm sorry, yeah, 231 million. Mm-hmm. So 202 to 231. So that, after you do that math, you subtract those from the gross digest, that gives you the net digest. So last year, a mill in Dade County was worth $481,438. This year, a mill is worth $521,697. And the reason I knocked that, it's not millions, because when you talk about millage rate, you knock off the last three digits for a tenth. And we can kind of go through that presentation in a minute if we need to. At the bottom, you see the incorporated area. Again, the gross digest went from 139 to 150 million, less exemptions, 31 million to 38 million this year. So there was an increase in the incorporated area as well. And the net digest value in the city was last year 107 million. Well, a mill. Well, let's just net digest 107,941 versus 112 million to 149. Looking down at the and that is the 112 does equal $112,149 is what a mill would be worth inside the incorporated area. Then looking at the very bottom, you see where we have the total digest value. So the total digest for Dade County 2003 was $589,380,000. Now it's $633,847,000. The total taxes levied last year was $4.9 million, and this year is at $5.1 million. So the net tax increase this year is $205,886, which is right at 4.16% increase from last year. That's 4.16. That's growth. And so what we talked about this morning is when someone adds a concrete driveway or a room onto their house or build a new house, a lot of new buildings. I can't remember what the how many building permits we did this past, or electrical permits we did this past year, but it's several. It's really surprising. It keeps up, and the only way it really comes off is if there's unfortunately a fire, or a few years ago we had tornadoes that took out some homes. But outside of that, typically those things are part of the county's digest. So it's basically like all the county property, the acreage, and all the dwellings, and that's what it is worth, $633,847,824. Looking at tab number 2, we have the unincorporated rate. This is commonly known as, in tax world, PT 32.1. This is computation of the millage rate, rollback, and percentage increase. It's the same information as that's the incorporated one up on the screen, which it's up there. We'll just flip over to tab 3. That's fine, no problem. Never mind, unincorporated, back to tab 2. It's the same information, just put in a little bit different format, as you see on the 5-year history. It does break out real and personal property at the top and shows the changes in those. If you look at that gray column to the left, you'll see negative 43,984 in real, and then an increase in personal. So that is the difference there from the prior year. And then over to the left, there's actually reassessment of existing real property, and these are the formula. You see all this RVA, NAG, CYD. This is how Georgia calculates the millage rate, and they use this form for us to calculate, and it derives the figures. So all those numbers do agree to the 5-year history. So if you've got a copy of the 5-year history, you've got everything. Same thing with the next tab, which is the incorporated rate. Again, that's the land located for Dade County in the city, and you see that rate. So at the top there in the rate, I'll stick with this one. Last year's millage rate in the city was at 10.219. The 2024 millage rate proposed is 9.9625. So that is a decrease for the city. That's, again, first time in a long time that it's gone under 10. And flipping back one page, on the unincorporated, you see it was 8 mills there, and the 8 mills is being proposed now at 7.75 mills. If you wanted to look way back at millage rates, you could look back on, again, the 5-year history, and you'll see that back in 2019, the millage rate was 8.23, and then it dropped to basically it was 8 mills for a long time. It was 8.007. Then 2021, it was 8 mills. 2022 is 8 mills. 2003, it was 8 mills, and then proposed at 7.75 this year. And then the same thing with the incorporated rate. At the bottom, you see where in 2019 it was 10.948, and then it dropped to 10.801, 10.733, 10.553, 10.219, and now proposed at 9.9625. So those are the millage rates. I can't remember exactly what all I said this morning about that, other than what I've talked about here. But if you look under tab 4, this is calculations of how we derive what's called the rollback rates. Rollback rates are taking information like the insurance premium tax. We get what's called an insurance premium tax from this Department of Revenue each year, and then the county years ago participated in legislation that allowed us to collect 1 penny for local option sales tax. You hear us report that at every meeting, and so that lost ratio came in at 4.8417. And then the insurance premium tax ratio came in at 2.2125. So you think, well, what's that got to do with anything? Well, if you add those together, that's 7.0542 mills. So basically 7 mills that we were able to roll back from the insurance premium tax and then the sales tax. On the lost, we only get 80% of the lost each year. The city of Trenton gets 20% of that. So, but yes, 7 mills. Now, so that means that the gross maintenance and operation millage rate, if you see up there, is really 14.8042 mills. We rolled it back 7.0542 mills and giving us a millage rate of 7.75. So almost everything that's already been collected in sales tax is offset by, the rest is through property tax. And there's a graph back here under tab 11. Don't worry about that. That is 38% of our tax that comes in is sales tax, all right? 38% of our budget in our general fund is used from sales tax. Only 25% of our total budget comes from property tax. And that is based off the year-end June 30, 2023. That's in our audited financials this year. So, but that's how important sales tax is to Dade County, that we're able to roll that back each and every year. Let's see. So tab 5 is just a summary of everything, and you see that lists the incorporated area. It breaks down the tax at 14.80422 mills, just the same thing as we just did. That would only list the sales tax ratio, sales tax rollback at 4.84. So that's why the city's a little higher. They, I guess, don't get the insurance premium tax like the county, but they get other fees from Georgia Power and other things that the county doesn't get. So it offsets. So that's why the city's portion is 9.9625. Now that's not the city millage rate. That's the incorporated rate for Dade County that represents the city, 9.9625. The unincorporated rate, you see, started out again at 14.8042, and then dropped the two ratios, dropping at 7.75 proposed. And then the school board's tax is at 14 mills, and they do not get a rollback on either insurance premium tax or sales tax rate rollback, so theirs remains at 14. Looking over, just be aware that I want to make sure everyone knows tab 8 there is the notice of special call meeting that is set for 4:30 next week on Thursday. Tab 9, we have some graphs here. That's just Dade County's unincorporated rate is proposed. And if you have a house valued at $100,000, okay, that's market value. Of course, the 40% assessed value would be $40,000, all right? So 40% of 100, you're only going to be taxed on your assessed value. That's at $40,000. So at 8 mills, your tax would be $320. If you've had no changes, if there was no increases, then what would happen this year on your $100,000 valued home at 40%, of course, $40,000 is 7.75. Now your tax would only be $310,000. There's a calculation there on the screen to look, and it's the market value is at $150,000. So again, at 40% of the market value, you see it's $60,000. So at 7.75 mills or 0.00775, your annual property tax levy would be $465. If you're looking at a $300,000 house, then your assessed value would be $120,000. Last year's millage rate was at 8, and that equaled about $960 in tax. Well, this year, if rolling it back to 7.75, again, if no appraisals or anything happened this year that changed your assessed value, then you would only pay $930. So that would be a $30 reduction based on the county. Same thing looking at his incorporated rate. Last year, a $100,000 home assessed would be $40,000. That was at 10.219 mills, so that was $408.76. The proposed rate this year would be 9.963, so now your tax would be $398.52, again, a reduction of $10.24. Then same thing on $300,000 home, 40% at $120,000. Last year was at 10.219. That tax would have equaled $1,226.28. This year, at 9.963 meals would be $1,195.56, which is $30.72 reduction. Tab 10 is a copy of the Dade County Board of Education's. I just wanted to put that in there in case you haven't seen that. Back again, they had to go back 5 years as well. 2019, theirs was at 15.330. Stayed there for 2020, and then in 21 it dropped to 14.388. 22 it dropped to 14.2. 23 it dropped to 14.00, and then this year they remained at 14.00. But this is a little clearer picture because they have a county-wide tax, and that's the reason I wanted to put this in here. If you see this, you'll see that where it says net taxes levied down there, they collected in 23 $7,461,648. For 24, by leaving their millage rate at 14 mills, they will collect all this due to inflationary growth, $8 million and some change, right at $8,005,034. So that is theirs is a 7.28% difference in an increase from the prior year. And that's because 22 to 23, they had a drop of 0.2 mils, but 23 to 24, they did not have a drop. And so therefore, they are going to collect. Now that to me tells me that 7.28 is really the true growth rate in Dade County. I mean, that's after you take all the gross numbers, subtract out all the exemptions, a meal in the county is worth $571,788, whereas last year was only valued at $732,974. So that 7.28% is a true how much the inflationary growth is worth in Dade County. Tab 11 is just the graph I talked about earlier. It's the 38 showing that property taxes in Dade County equals just 25% of our total budget, and where all the other revenues come from. Again, the largest part of that is 38% coming from sales tax. 12 and 13, 12, I should say. We've been looking at this. It's called smartasset.com. If you want to go to that website, you can. This presentation is online, so if you want to go there, you can do your own research. It's Georgia Property Tax Calculator at Smart Asset. And Dade County, in the past, was ranked number 3. I think last year we were number 5. And this year, this is saying we're ranked, it depends on what you're looking at, 10. This is based off of places receiving the most value for their property taxes. They also have another graph on there that says we're ranked number 8. So that's looking at the counties above us: Fannin County, Heard County, Gilmer County, Chattooga County, Rayburn County, a lot of northeast Georgia counties, Habersham, Union, and Carroll are ahead of us, and then the Dade County comes in there. And then the next one is yet another one from www.tax-rates.org, which just, again, it's like a calculator, and it shows how we compare to the rest of the country. And it puts us, in a pretty good place right there in the middle. So not the highest and not the lowest. The last two things in your packet there for the commissioners are it's basically what's online, and that's what we heard Carrie's voice a minute ago. If you go to those, you can listen through it or read through it, and it just tells you what the millage rate is, why Georgia requires what they require, how to think about one meal, what that is. It's 1,000 in property, $1,000 in property value equals $1. I mean, it's one way to think about it. One meal equals 1/10 of 1%. And there's that statistical information about the 8th lowest property tax in the entire state, and then I think there's 2,000, yeah. So, I can go on for days, but I'll stop there and let y'all ask any questions.
That's a good, just like this one, it's informative, we got a few people here, you wanna ask, we got some questions, you wanna talk to us? Anything? What did the lady with the paper, she was here, I guess she didn't.
She stuck her hand up.
She got her information earlier.
Yeah.
Lydia was here earlier
Yeah, she
today.
did short.
Good questions, yeah.
She did have
Oh,
some
she
good
was.
questions.
I think she put.
Feel
her-
free though, it's public hearing, ask us, come up and,
If you'll
Talk to
come up here, the
Yeah.
mic's here.
yeah, we can hear kinda what you got.
So I was wondering what is the total value of Dade County, Georgia?
Okay, that's on the 5-year history there on the screen. And it currently is, total digest value is at the bottom, at the very bottom there.
So would that be the 633?
633,847,000.
Okay, and what is the total amount for the budget of Dade County? Was that on this too?
The total amount of the budget for Dade County, this year's budget that was passed is $15,322,000.
I'll yield so other people could ask questions, but I do have something else I would like to discuss afterwards, if anybody else has any questions.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So some of you in this room here know me, some of you may not. I live out in Coal City, so I am in a remote area of Dade County. And I have been kind of keeping up with this, so I'm gonna read what I put together for the Board of Commissioners and for the citizens of the county. And it kind of makes me sad that there's really not anybody here today. So good evening, esteemed members of the board and concerned citizens. I stand before you tonight to address the critical matter of property taxes and the fiduciary responsibilities that come with your positions as trustees of the public trust. It is important for the citizens of this county to remember that the purpose of property taxes is to ensure the well-being and prosperity of all members of the community and the public trust known as Dade County by funding essential public services. These services are meant to benefit the people of this town who, as the true grantors and testators of the public trust, have entrusted their property to the county and have appointed board members to represent us in our best interest. As trustees, board members are charged with a solemn duty to allocate these funds responsibly in the best interest of the beneficiaries, which are the people of this county who have registered their property with the county in exchange for benefits and privileges allocated by the trust. Every dollar collected through property taxes represents a pledge from the people, a pledge that should be honored by delivering the services, benefits, and privileges they are entitled to receive. However, there is a growing concern that the county is receiving funds for public services that are not being rendered. A prime example is access to the public transportation system. Many citizens do not have access to school buses, which causes them to not have access to the public school system. Yet they continue to contribute to the funding of the Board of Education so that they may receive this benefit and privilege. This discrepancy raises serious questions about the management and allocation of funds being received by the Board of Education. If the Board of Education is indeed in excess of the funds necessary to fulfill its obligations, then it is imperative that a thorough audit be conducted to ensure they are meeting their duties as trustees, especially when they're asking the people who pay for these benefits and privileges to give more money. The Constitution of the great state of Georgia provides the people with the right to form a new government when they no longer agree with the actions of the current one. Government, in this instance, we call a board or trustees. While this is not a step to be taken lightly, it is not an insurmountable task. especially when there are other individuals in our community who are committed to the welfare of the many rather than that of a few powerful families and their associates. It is our duty to ensure that our government, whether it be the local board of commissioners, the tax board, the board of education, and even our sheriff, act in the best interest of the people they serve. All of them. I urge this board to consider these concerns seriously and to take the necessary steps to address the mismanagement of funds. Let us work together to restore the trust and integrity to our public institutions for the benefit of all citizens of this county. Thank you. Mr. Rumley, I want you to know that meeting you and our interaction that we had was the best thing that ever happened to me. Thank you so very much for putting me and my family in jail for standing up for our rights. I appreciate you tremendously. I'm done. Thank you.
Anyone else want to come up and talk to us now? Any questions?
I don't have quite the prepared statement, but I'm a little confused, and the reason that I'm here is because of the notice of property tax increase. So I'm just looking for a little clarification, because we talked about a decrease here, and this is specifically this meeting was posted as talking about a 17.5% property tax increase. So I need some clarification.
What we've done in that, we've actually lowered the millage rate, but what the ad in the paper is the actual revenue collected from taxes that we will receive over and beyond last year. It's not our tax, our millage rate's not going up, but they require us, every county in the state of Georgia, if you collect, what is it, over 3% or more revenue than you did last year, you've got to advertise that, and they put the wording in here. We don't, and there should be a little footnote there explaining that, because that's the value of your property if it's went up. That's the money that's over and beyond. That's Paula's. I blame it on her. That's the difference in the appraised value of different properties in the county. And but our millage rate, we control the millage rate, and this year, we are dropping the millage rate. But that's what that is. It's over and beyond the actual revenue that was collected last year. Yeah.
So also, if you think about it like this, if we build 40 new homes in Dade County are built, and they're $500,000 homes, whatever. Those weren't there the prior year, so now they count towards the growth, and so we're going to be collecting tax from them as well, brand new money that we never got before. Okay. So the Georgia under Roy Barnes, I believe he was Governor Roy Barnes at the time, 2009, I don't know, long time ago. Passed a law under the Taxpayer Bill of Rights that says if you collect more than you did the prior year, then you have to advertise that as a tax increase. And so we may not like it, but that's what we have to do. And so when we do the calculations, we have to do them according from that form that was with a yellow on it that said unincorporated and incorporated. That's where all those ratios, all those formulas produce values that we have to then take off that and put onto that actual form. And then they come up, the Department of Revenue will come up to the county, I believe it's scheduled for next Friday, and they'll audit all of that paperwork to make sure that we put it in the newspaper, we put it online on our website, and that we actually held the 3 public hearings. And we have to propose it as a tax increase. And that's what it is. I mean, we are collecting more taxes than we did the prior year. If your value, you chose to freeze your value, and you have, your assessment stayed basically the same, even if it went up, right? Your assessment, if your value is frozen, you're going to be paying taxes on that 40% assessed value of that frozen value. You're most likely you're going to have a decrease, but we can't say that. The Georgia does not allow us to come in the paper and say that.
Well, also with that too, which I'm sure Paula could probably say a lot more about it. So one year we might have a few people sign up for the 65 and 5 or one of the exemptions. And then the next year, we might have 50 people sign up for it. So all those exemptions comes back to us here. So they look nice and they feel nice and we like them, but in actuality, across the board, it hurts everybody. So it's, and Paula could probably talk about that a little bit more than me, but I mean, that's, you know, if you have a few signing up one year and then you have multiple signing up the next year, it adds up.
But that's what the ad is, that's what it's for. It actually explains that we are collecting more money than we did last year because of growth, you know. Would it be new houses, or would it be additions people's built onto their houses, or swimming pools, or whatever, you know, yeah.
So assessed, just out of curiosity, if you don't mind me asking, how frequently is assessed value, how frequently is that evaluated?
Can you repeat that question so people can hear it online, please?
No,
it's okay,
Paul can do it.
You're asking how often is the property assessed?
Yes,
Like reassessed, like values are changed?
Correct.
Well, every year we do what's called a sales ratio study, we do market analysis, we do that every year. So that determines whether we're gonna make any changes in value or not, because we are trying to arrive at a fair market value. What do we feel, based on what properties have actually sold for, do we feel you could get for your property? That's why, you know, people will come in and say, well, I haven't done anything to my property, but my property value increased. Well, what we're saying is you could get more for your property this year based on the market than you could have last year in last year's market. So as far as a reassessment, we look at it every year, but there may be changes and there may not be changes based on what we see in the market. And that includes commercial properties, residential properties, industrial properties, you know, properties classes across the board.
Okay, sorry, I didn't realize that. So I just to clarify, so the 17.55% increase in property taxes in the unincorporated area, it's projected that 17.55% more taxes are going to be collected
In total.
in 2025 than they were in 2024.
In the unincorporated area.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe Dade County could lead the way in the state for rewording.
Oh, we would love to.
They've tried it, trust me. No, they won't,
Have no
that's
idea.
strictly.
Go, I mean, you need to go to your representative,
Yeah.
your state
Yeah, no,
representatives.
this is-
It's, yeah, and with that too, which, you know, he's reading off and showing all this, which I don't think a lot of people understand that these pages are to us.
Well-
Like, we can't change the wording on this, we can't, you know, this is, when I go to class to learn more about commissioner stuff, this is what we study,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so it's, it's just mandatory that it's filled out this way, and
Yeah, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but it seems to me that the state of inserting in collected, just one word.
One word. That's all it
One
takes.
word. But I thank y'all for indulging me and understanding exactly what that this notice didn't mean nearly what I thought it did.
Right.
But on your, when you
we're
were
glad to hear
talking,
that.
when you were talking about the appraisal, you probably, now Paula, too, their office is required every 3 years to do a reval, of the property.
Yeah, okay.
So every year for 3 years, they do a third of the county, a third, in the end of the year, and it's required by law. So that's
That's helpful too, because I did think.
I mean, they've got to lay hands on, they've got to actually
Correct me if
see
I'm
or
wrong.
drive up and touch that property. Just say-
So once every 3 years, okay.
Okay, let me clarify.
Go ahead and
Yeah.
explain, yeah.
What that means is we're required to physically visit the properties once every 3 years. That doesn't mean that only a
That's the
third of the
only-
county will be reassessed. That just
Okay.
means a third of the county will be physically visited.
Gotcha.
The whole county is reviewed every year.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
if
But
something
that
comes
physical
up,
visit is to see if there's any improvements or any things maybe that have
Sure.
been destroyed
Sure.
by
Yeah,
fire or
absolutely.
whatever, well, they can be more accurate, right? That's
That's right.
the main reason for
In
that.
new construction, we also get a copy of the electrical permit, so we know what's new. It's been built, it could be a detached garage that has an electrical meter on it, you know, things like that, so.
or if something's we have people that are out and about. If something's reported, you go out and
Sure.
check it out. So it's not just, and I know this because I worked for the assessor's office. I was the field agent. So, we're constantly looking at properties. So it's not something that's not looked at a lot.
Right. Yeah.
And we are in a odd little space with two different mountains and, so it is hard. Next to me, I have $1 million homes, which my house is not $1 million home. But so it's hard to assess, and then two neighbors over are mobile homes. So you gotta take all that and think about it. And I mean, they have a big job trying to make sure that we're where we need to be with the
Yeah,
state.
particularly in a growing county. Again, thank y'all. I appreciate your indulgence on that.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? You got in the back there, you got anything you want to bring to the floor? Okay.
Now I want to, Don knows how I feel. I think we should be at 7.5 mil. Here's my reason, and I want to put it out loud, and it'll help answer your question. Our rollback was 6.593 on a $100,000 home. Your assessed value is $40,000. Your taxes would be $264. At 7.75 at $40,000, your payment's going to be $310. So your value, your taxes did go up $46 on a $100,000 home. The reason, here's why I feel 7.5. That's halfway between our rollback and where we was at. Y'all are going to say, well, we had more exemptions. Yes, we did. We had 20 million more in exemptions or less exemptions, but we still grew by $40 million on property values. So for me, I still say we should be at 7.5 on our millage rate. And that's, we've grown every year on our budget. Our houses went up. That's just $10 less from 7.75 to 7.5. That's only $10 per house on a $100,000 home. That $10 may make a whole lot of a difference to an individual. So that's my stand on our millage rate, and that's where I think we should be.
Laura, you got any comment?
Only thing I have, me and Philip are friends, and he does a lot for me. I think you need to tell everybody where that lost revenue is gonna be. Where's it gonna come from?
The problem is we set our budget before we get these numbers. We should set our budget after these numbers. Set that. It's not my job to tell them where to make their cuts at. It's my job to take care of the citizens and our taxes. I think we should lower it to the 7.5, and if we have to redo our budget, then so be it. I don't like the way we do our budget before we know this number. We are still going up on taxes on everybody. Even though we're coming back 0.25, we're still going up 17%, unless you've got it froze. And we've had new homes built. There's houses being built every day. We're still going up $40 million in value from last year to this year. That's my personal opinion.
But that's
However much you make in your household is what you're gonna spend. The more you make, the more you spend, period. The more we take, the more it's gonna be spent.
in my household, I have to cut back.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I understand that. But we also we have employees that need to make a decent wage. And when you pick up that phone and you call 911, you expect help. Whether it's police, fire, ambulance. And a lot of them are volunteers, and I'm proud to be a commissioner in this county, and I think we do the best we can with what we're working with. We were just talking the other night, a patrol car that used to cost $40,000 is what now?
80.
Yeah, it was $80,000. And we can't just say, well, we're gonna quit putting prisoners in jail. Our food budget this year went up 40%. My groceries stayed at home. Every time I go to, usually Walmart, but every time I go somewhere to buy my groceries, everything's just, it's going higher and higher, but I feel I can go home and lay down at night and know that with this team of commissioners that I'm working with, that we're doing the best we possibly know how to do. So,
You wanna,
Yeah,
go ahead and you comment, you know, go around.
I mean, this time of year is always very hard, and stressful for, I know, all of us. But, we possibly could do that, but if there was any chance of something terrible happening again, like the tornadoes, we would fall back into a bad shape, and I feel good about how we built it and where it stands, and I would rather go this way instead of and see how it goes, and then when we have 2 years to kind of look back on, then maybe next year we could come back, further. But if you go too fast, too much, you end up getting bit. So I know I spent a lot of time looking at the budget, looking at everybody. We've got operations coming up with, different buildings, in which that was part of me coming on, was that, the promise that things that people voted on were gonna get going. And we still don't have, an animal control yet to put anywhere on the budget. And I just, I know it's hard for everybody. I have a family of 3 kids, a husband, and all the other kids that I feed. So I see the grocery bill, but to me, that $10 is a big deal to make sure that we have the services that we need. I don't know, it's a hard place to be.
Okay. Appreciate everyone being here tonight. We, that ad, like you said, every year is questioned, people just like you, they read it and they don't understand, but it's a violation of law if we put anything in there beside it and explain it. You can't do that. So, you got anything else you want to add, Paul, or anything? No? Okay. Appreciate everyone being here. We'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting or public hearing. Thank you.